Hi friends, it's your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3, the massive success video game, and statements by Devora Wild, which really shocked me. So Devora Wild is the voice actress for Lae'zel, and Lae'zel is specifically one of the characters in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I never played any of Baldur's Gate 3, but I am extremely thankful for Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm not a big video game fan, and I certainly really am, and that doesn't change with Dungeons and Dragons. I generally ignore every Dungeons and Dragons video game that comes out, but I did not ignore Baldur's Gate 3, and the reason why is it made $1 billion. And I paid attention to it because I realize now that Dungeons and Dragons it does extremely well, and it remains standing when a lot of other companies, a lot of other games, a lot of other TTRPG communities fail because they don't have business armor, they don't have crisis armor, right? And so Baldur's Gate 3, the real value of it to a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master or to a Dungeons and Dragons dragon master is the business armor it supplies, right? It invests value in the D&D IP, right? It's not important that people are playing another video game, then the world doesn't need any more of that. But it is absolutely important that that incredibly valuable intellectual properties have business armor, have crisis armor, and that's what Baldur's Gate did. So Devora Wild came out, and she was talking about how people have responded to her character, Lae'zel. I think she's a Githyanki from what I saw, and just how her character, really meant a lot to players, right? And what she said, it really shocked me what she said. She said, when people were like, "You helped me," right? And she said, I really wasn't trying to help anybody. When I was doing the game, I was thinking about serving the character, serving the truth, and serving the story of it all. And I was like, whoa, which is pretty incredible, right? So she did what every Dragon Master does, right? She inhabited a Dungeons and Dragons player character and did the best she could to bring it to life, right? And as Dungeon Masters, we set the frame, we erect the scaffolding of the world, right? And then that is filled in by the player characters, and it's drawn out by the player characters. But what's really fascinating to me is when a Dragon Master comes to the table, what are they there for? The worst Dragon Masters are there for fun, right? It's the most useless thing you can do with Dungeons and Dragons. Like, we have created this powerful platform that allows us to use narrative and identity to explore ourselves, to explore the world, to explore other selves, to explore other worlds. And people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna have some fun." Go play Call of Duty. Who needs you here? I don't understand, that use of Dungeons and Dragons, right? But what's really interesting is she said, so what else can you do as a Dragon Master? Well, one of the things I've been saying is I think you can improve yourself, right? You can improve everybody else at the table, and then that table can go away from the table and improve the world, right? But she's saying, as a Dragon Master, you can serve the character. What does this mean? I knew exactly what she meant by this, right? One of the things I thought was really interesting was I recently read the brand new Batman #1. So in September 2025, DC Comics rebooted the Batman for only the 4th time in 80 years of history, right? And Matt Fraction came in to write the character. And I read the book, the comic book, and it was great. It was fantastic. And one of the reasons why was he served the character. He knew who Batman was, and he remained faithful to the attributes that Batman actually has, right? But he also told a fresh and exciting story, something new, right, that we hadn't seen before. And so he was serving the character. The other thing she said is we're serving the truth, right? The truth of the narrative, but also the truth of our own world, the truth of ourselves, the truth at the table, right? And then finally, she said, the story of it all, right? So what does she mean by that? Well, there is incredible value in Dungeons and Dragons stories. Oh, I don't know, Scott. We're just having fun. There's no value in the story that we have. Yeah, I'm sure that's true at your table. But we know what the value of a Dungeons and Dragons story is. In 2024, Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves came out. That was a Dungeons and Dragons story. What's the value of it? $250 million. That's the value there, right? There are live action plays right now. It is estimated that the number one live action play in the world right now is making $30 to $50 million a year off of telling one cohesive Dungeons and Dragons story. So the value of an ongoing Dungeons and Dragons story is established. It's approximately $25 to $50 million a year, right? When we say these are valuable, that is figurative. It's valuable here. It's valuable here. But it is also valuable here, right? It is both figurative and literal. The value of the story of it all is incredible, right? And so I really think as Dungeon Masters and as Dragon Masters, we need to be very careful to do exactly what she's saying, to serve the character, the player character. We owe something to the player characters that we put down, right? They need to have a name. They need to have a backstory. The Dungeon Master needs to care about that backstory. We need to be emotionally invested in them. We need to serve the character. We owe a debt to that character sheet, to that player character, right? And we're not thinking about that enough. To serve the truth. In this fiction, there is truth. And frankly, are you looking around? I think there's a lot more truth in our fiction today than there is in our IRL, right? Like, go listen to the news, see how much truth you find, right? Whereas pick up any fiction novel, find a lot of truth, I think, right? I feel this is definitely a trend in America. There's way more truth in our comedy and our fiction than there is in our news or in our own conversations. It's incredible, right? And finally, the story of it all, serving the story of it all. And I think we really need to remember, we need to remember what Devor Wild is saying. There is intense, incredible value in the stories of Dungeons & Dragons. It is absolutely massive. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.